Mr. Speaker, last week the Minister of the Environment claimed that cuts to groundwater testing will not have short-term detrimental impact because, as I quote, there is plenty of time for us to gather the information, end quote. The Minister's opinion is not shared by the experts. In addition, the department chopped $12 million from its overall budget without knowing what programs the money would come from. So my questions are to the Minister of the Environment. Now that we are 2 months into the budget year, would the Minister explain exactly how the department will cut $12 million from its budget? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that question is entirely impossible to answer in the 45 seconds that the rules of the House allow for. But let me refresh this member's memory and remind her that we spent about 3 hours of quality time together over in the annex about 2 weeks ago, and I think we went through a great amount of detail with respect to my budget. And if there are some issues that are still unclear to her, then I suggest that she sit down with me and we'll go over some further detail at a later time.
Yes, thank you. That is why I asked the question. You were not able to provide very much detail at the time, aside from what you'd cut, but thank you for the invitation. The next question I have is, given that the budget cuts have reduced water monitoring, how does the Minister expect Water for Life partners to increase their understanding of the state of Alberta's drinking water, aquatic ecosystems, and the quality and quantity of surface and groundwater resources?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the issue with respect to groundwater monitoring, and she referred to it in her preamble to the first question, is that the information that is garnered from monitoring of groundwater is accumulated over many years, and so when you are having a series of wells that are being monitored, you really don't garner the kind of information that you need over a period of 1 or 2 or even 5 years. It's when you start to compare long-term trends over 10 and 15 and 20 years that you can start to interpret that information. That's what I was referring to the honourable member by saying whether we reduce the frequency of testing in these wells to annually or biannually. In the long term, it's not going to have a fundamental impact on how we analyze that data 20 years down the road.
The honourable member.
Well, thank you. And again to the same minister. Given that the information is key to understanding the risks to groundwater, how can the minister know there won't be any detrimental effects if, in fact, the department's collection of information is skipping a few years in that cumulative effect?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, let's remember that most of the issues that we're dealing with respect to groundwater is to determine what is the connectivity between groundwater and surface water. So if we have pressure on our surface water, is that going to affect the availability on groundwater? And the reverse is also true. If we put undue pressure on groundwater, is that going to have an unanticipated negative effect on surface water? I use as an example the experience they had in Australia. When they used too much surface water, they found that they were severely affecting the groundwater that's available.
The honourable